The Senate has completed the screening of ministerial nominees submitted by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, confirming them as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This exercise aimed to assess the nominees' suitability for their roles in driving the nation's development agenda, focusing on critical issues like economic growth, infrastructure development, and security. During the screening, lawmakers scrutinized the nominees' credentials, experience, and vision for their ministries. The process allowed senators to engage with the nominees, evaluating their expertise and knowledge in their respective fields. The confirmed ministers are expected to work closely with the legislature to implement policies and programs that benefit Nigerians. And this will be our focus on tonight's program. Thanks for joining us. I'm Victoria Clinton. Welcome. Joining us for the conversation is Ahmed Saju. He's a public affairs analyst and a former commissioner at Adamawa State. You're welcome to Nigeria today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now, what do you make of the screening process? What are the issues of concern regarding the process here?
I think let us begin by very sincerely commending President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is the first time that the Senate will be screening ministers with some purpose-driven agenda. The Senate now got ministerial nominees with their portfolios attached. So the screening, from looking at their credentials right to the questioning process, is purposive, is directional. It's actually this is the first time, and I hope that it's a precedent that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had set that will continue, going forward in our democracy. A lot of people have been clamoring for the fact that, people come before the Senate and they ask them questions in diverse fields because they didn't know exactly what these nominees are. There are speculations. Sometimes they ask them questions related to, because of their background, they ask somebody questions that has to do with law, and he is not going to be the Attorney General. He will end up going to another ministry. So he was not scrutinized properly for the ministry that he has been sent to. This is the first time in our history that the Senate has a focus, has a direction, has a purpose. Look, we have been nominated for this job. How prepared are you for it? And I think that helped the process a lot. And I believe that watching the senators, barring one or two persons that the Senate in its own wisdom decided that because they were once screened in that same Senate chamber, they should just take a bow and go, which to some of us was not proper. If the president sends a name and he attaches a portfolio to that name, it will only be fair to Nigerians if the Senate tried to probe the capacity of the nominee to handle the assignment that has been proposed by Mr. President. Those are the only areas that some of us were not happy. Whether you have been before the Senate before, even if you are from the legislature, this bow and go should have its own limitations. If I am in the Senate and they send Eucharia's name, and they want to make Eucharia the Minister of Health, I will start by asking you how much of the dynamics within the health sector that you know.
I've heard this come true.
That will give you, that will give me an opportunity and give Nigerians an opportunity to know how prepared you are for the task. So, but by and large, the screening, this time around is actually purposive, and we hope that with some of the presentations we saw, some of them showing real competence, real capacity, real understanding of what the president expects them to go and do, we expect that their contributions to the development agenda of not just this government but the country as a whole would be very monumental.
Now, looking at the ministers designate, we had Dr. Netawe Iwadata, Iwata, for the humanitarian affairs and poverty reduction. Given what has happened in that ministry, what are we expecting from this?
This was a gubernatorial candidate, and for him to have even contested and attempted to run for governor and attempted to operate as a governor of a state means that he really understands the dynamics of human development within the setup called Nigeria. We can easily, probe him based on his campaign manifesto when he was running for governor. And part of what he pledged to have done that time for his state was to reduce poverty through a number of interventions that he had proposed. And now he has been given an opportunity, a platform that is wider than his own state. So we're expecting that quite definitely he will make a difference. And when he stood before the Senate, some of the things he said included the fact that he's going to leverage on technology to make sure that they harvest reliable data of individuals that will need intervention. And you see, key missing link in the manner we run our system is data harvesting. You need to generate data and harvest the data and then use the data to as a means for your intervention. And that's the assurance he gave. And we hope and pray that he will keep to that assurance. Because a number of times, when people talk about interventions, what they're talking about is, what are you intervening? How do you determine the people that you are intervening in their lives? But he is telling you that, look, we're going to generate and harvest data that will help us do the intervention. Now, so I'm confident.
Okay. Now, still looking at the ministries, looking at the new ministry, the Ministry of Livestock Development. We have a strong advocate.
Incidentally, let's see. He comes from my state. Oh. It's a brother, and I know him from childhood. He grew up in a family that has been involved in these livestock activities right from his childhood. Somebody who understands the nuances, the requirements. And then he served in NNPC, rose to a high position in NNPC, retired, then opened a farm of his own, and is intervening both in crop production and livestock production. And he has been working with a number of agencies and individuals and companies on the modernization of the livestock system. Nobody ever comes to a position as prepared as Mutari Idi. He already knows exactly where, and he also understands, coming from Adamawa State, where we have had our own fair share of farmer-herder clashes and the underlying issues in it, the triggers, the fallacies, the real occurrences and the rest. I am sure he has come well equipped. Even the way he presented himself before the Senate tells you that, look, here is a livestock worker who has come to direct the livestock process. Our concern or our expectation is that Mutari Idi will address the twin issues of modernization of livestock production and addressing the key concerns with regards to the misunderstanding that usually breaches peace between people who are doing a twin profession. Farming and cattle rearing are just twin activities, and that they're supposed to be in harmony. They're supposed to harmonize, because even beyond the activities that they do, the productive activities that are involved, they're interconnected. When we're growing up, and Mutari knows this more than anybody, when we're growing up, you pay cattle rearers to come and spend the dry season on your farm. The droppings on the farm constitute the manure, the fertilizer that will make your crops grow. And then when you harvest, you leave the chaff on the farm so that they come with their cattle and their animals to eat the chaff. There has been a symbiotic relationship between farmers and herders, like I said, who are involved in twin activities that are geared towards nutritional health of society. So I think Mutare understands this.
Now let's talk about the women in the house. We have the three women. We have Dr. Jumoke Oduwole. He's a trade and investment minister designate. We also had Bianca Odinaka Odumegu Ujuku. This one is not for the
and Dr. Sueba.
And yes, and Dr. Sueba Said Ahmed.
Good. First,
three women now.
Yeah. Jumoke was until very recently economic advisor to then Vice President Yomi Oshibanjo, and she's been involved also in constructing pathways for ease of doing business in Nigeria. She speaks very passionately about this country. At least one thing I can tell you about her is that she has the credentials of a patriot, somebody who is concerned. And the ministry she's been given is very strategic and key. We hear every day that industries are folding up, industries are leaving the country. It may not necessarily be so, but now that we have somebody in holding onto that portfolio that has been involved in ensuring that industries survive, thrive in societies all over, she would be able to drive the process of industrialization of Nigeria. And that's what we expect from her. Nothing less, nothing more. In the case of Bianca, right from the time she became a beauty pageant, she's been an ambassador of some sort. And then she also became a diplomat proper, an ambassador proper. And she's been speaking for Nigeria, working for Nigeria, even in her private capacity. At one point in time, she also helped with the diaspora movement thing. And so nobody ever comes to a place as prepared as she is, because we have now a minister of state who is actually prepared to engage the world and be listened to with a lot of diplomatic finesse. The senior minister is a career diplomat, and then the minister of state is a diplomat in her own right. I think there will be a balance in that ministry. And don't forget also that a lot of Nigerians that are, misrepresenting the country or given the country a different name had come from areas that Bianca comes from. So she would be able to give the correct perspective of what Nigeria is and where we are. I think she's a right choice. And Dr. Sueba is little known, to a lot of people.
But she's a strong gender advocate.
Not just a strong gender advocate, but a reputable educationist.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody who had, if you've ever listened to her speak, or if you have seen her writings and her activities, her campaign for girl child education, her campaign for, to eradicate gender-based violence, her campaign for equity within the educational setup and within society, the social setup of society, you will not help but say Nigeria is lucky that she was identified and is going to be given this post. And you just need to have listened to them on the floor of the Senate. At least they discharged.
I did.
They discharged themselves very credibly, and we're expecting a lot more from them.
Okay, we are going to take a short break now, and the conversation will return after the break. Don't go away.
Of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different?
We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today. Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we're looking at the screening of the Ministerial Nominees by the National Assembly. And of course, I have here in the studio a gentleman, for this conversation. Now, Ahmed Saju, we also have for the Labor Ministry, the Ministry of Labor and Employment, Mohammed Megari Dingyadi.
Mohammed Megari Dingyadi, you know
former Minister of Police Affairs in the former administration.
One interesting thing about him is that he is probably the only one amongst them that will go to the office of the minister with an experience. He was a minister before.
Yes.
And so at least we expect his own takeoff not to be problematic at all. Nobody needs to school him on what a minister should do and how a minister should behave, what are the requirements of being a minister. Nobody should school him on that because he was once a minister. And I think the Senate acknowledged that when they said, well, you were once screened before us here and the rest. He did make pledges that he would intervene because he has one of the most difficult tasks. In times of hardship, in times like this, when government is trying very hard to push through reforms that are actually necessary but painful, one of the areas that you continue to have skirmishes is in industrial relations, because they will always tell you that, look, labor will say, you have just given us a minimum wage, but it has been eroded by realities of existence and the rest. And then there are outstanding packages, agreements, or as we're speaking now, SANU and NASU, Senior Staff Association of Universities and Non-Academic Staff, are already on strike. And others may just want to follow. So his job is actually to bring about industrial harmony. And because he's elderly and experienced. How well
do you think, given his experience, do you handle this position?
He's elderly and he's experienced. And he has come a long way in public administration, at different levels. So we expect that he would understand and that he will garner the respect. All we need from him is to garner the trust and the respect of the labor movement. If he wins their trust and their respect, he would be able to intervene and succeed in creating industrial harmony in the country, because we need industrial harmony. The workers are the creators of the wealth. And if you do not have a working class that is stable, you will not have a service that is stable. And the ordinary people are served by the working people. So I think he needs to quickly, come into the job and ensure that there's industrial harmony.
Okay, now, the last person, we'll just have to talk about him because we've talked about other people. We're talking about Right Honorable Yusuf Abdullah here. He's a Minister of State Housing.
I am happy. Not only did he come from the background of a state legislator, but he comes from one of the most populous states in Nigeria. And, when you have a large population, one of the things that a large population requires is housing. It's a basic need. It's a basic need. I think among the needs, the most basic are usually nutrition and shelter. And so he comes from a place where there's a huge population, and that huge population, that huge population would have schooled him on the desire and the requirement
Okay,
for
let's just
ensuring
mention
that
where it comes
everybody has
from.
shelter.
Okay, let's mention where it comes from. He's from Kano State. He
Yeah.
was a teacher, a lawmaker, an economist. He was also a speaker of the Kano State House of Assembly at one time in 2017.
That's what I'm telling you.
So
He has a legislative background.
legislative background, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he understands exactly what people's needs are and basic needs. Housing, shelter, food, shelter. These are basic.
So obviously, like you mentioned, these are round pegs in round holes. Now, how might these, the political landscape in Nigeria shift with these new crop of ministers?
I think when we look at it from just the new ministers, we will miss the bigger picture. The President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has delivered a masterstroke by telling ministers, those that survived and those that did not survive, by telling everybody that my ministers will be evaluated, and when they are evaluated, actions will be taken.
Everybody will be
there will be a rejigging. And when he did the rejigging, he didn't say this is the end. I have this feeling that this is just the beginning. We have just started. That down the line, a few months or a year or so from today, there will be a rejigging again, unless, of course, these ministers help in delivering on the mandate.
Now, how important is this for the country that we have, the president, not just talking the talk, but also walking the talk?
Yeah. It's very important because, you see, the president is not an octopus. Even if he's an octopus, the maximum is eight hands. The president is the president and commander-in-chief. He has a mandate. The entire country is his constituency. Every citizen of this country is his constituent. And he needs to deliver to everybody and everywhere. And he can't do it alone. He needs people to help him. And so he needs the kind of ministers that will help him deliver on that mandate. They are on a delegated mandate. He has the main mandate. They are on a delegated mandate. I hope that they hold the mandate as a trust, just as Nigerians have given the president his mandate as a trust.
Thank you very much. Well, that's it for Nigeria Today. A very big thank you to our guest. We had Ahmed Sajo. He's a public affairs analyst and, of course, a former commissioner at Adamawa State. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, always.
And thank you for being part of the program. Remember, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also watch these episodes and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for being there. I am your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.